Hello, everybody. My name is Linnell Gardner, and I'm in charge of the state of Sonny Liston. We are the business boxing side of the family that called him Sonny. Today, we're going to get into the death certificate. Uh, Sonny died, uh, and it was assumed that he was murdered by the mafia, uh, or died of an overdose, some kind of hot dose, or some kind of mixture of heroin and cocaine. Uh, there's been many theories over the years, but again, a theory is not proof. Uh, so it's not very scientific either. So what I want to show you is the death certificate. Geraldine Liston, before she died, told me that if Sonny would have died of uh, unusual circumstances, murder, overdose, um, she wouldn't have got his life insurance policy, according to her policy. Uh, and she says, well, Sonny didn't like needles, so he couldn't have overdosed. But that's kind of a general thing to say. I mean, because generally people don't like needles. I mean, what? Even when I was a kid, I didn't. I used to cry before I got a needle shot, a blood before the doctor checked my blood. Even today, to this day, I mean, who out there? Raise your hand if you enjoy getting blood work. Raise your hand. How many? Nobody likes it. So she kind of said something that it's something natural to say. Nobody likes. Sonny didn't like needles. Who does? But that didn't mean that Sonny didn't have blood work. I mean, he was a boxer. Boxers get cut. Boxers bleed. They have pre-fight examinations. During those pre-fight examinations, they get blood work done because they don't want the boxers to get hepatitis. We have to really start thinking logically when we're thinking about Sonny Liston, um, so we don't get bamboozled by these people that are trying to sell you uh, this fantastic fantasy about his life. Um, now, Showtime special came out, Pariah, The Lives and Deaths of Sonny Liston last November and into debuted in November and then it finished running at the end of January of 2020. Based on Sean ASSAEL's book, The Murder of Sonny Liston. Uh, was it Las Vegas, Heroin, and Heavyweights? Now, his whole book title is problematic. First of all, it flies in the face of what Geraldine Liston told me. She told me I wouldn't have gotten his insurance policy if he would have died of unnatural causes. So to have a title like the murder of Sonny Liston makes no sense. If my grandmother told me that she wouldn't have got his life insurance policy if he would have been murdered, and uh, he says Las Vegas, assuming that if you read his book or saw the Showtime special, there's an assumption that he hung out in the west side of Las Vegas. Sonny didn't hang out with black thugs, right? Um, and there's no way they can prove it. I asked the black historian that was on the show to prove it. She can't prove it. She admitted. She agreed with me that she can't prove it. So in any case, um, that's neither here nor there. Then he says heroin, Las Vegas heroin, and heavyweights. So that's an assumption that Sonny is the heavyweight who does heroin. So uh, I'm going to get into that later, but if you look at Sonny's record, fights and how many he's won and lost, uh, actually he was fighting more frequently before he died than when he started fighting when he was younger. He was in the best shape of his life. If you look at his record, his boxing record, he was fighting maybe 2 to 3 fights a month, which is unheard of before he died. Now you look at his record, his fight schedule before his professional schedule, before, as he was starting up the ranks, he was fighting less, much less. Now, either heroin is a, 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 a panacea for boxing to become a great boxer, or it's a complete fabrication. Sonny became champion, and he only took 7 months off after his last fight with Ali. Then he went back to fight, trying to regain the championship again. So after the 19, he fought Ali 1964, 1965, took 7 months off and got back on the back back in shape in order to become the I think he was ranked the top 10 before he died. You can't do that and do drugs, especially heroin. If you know anything about heroin, which most people don't, they're they're banking. A lot of these people that write these stories, they're banking on what you don't know, right? How many people know heroin addicts or anything about heroin? Heroin's been around since the beginning of the mid 19th century. It was a panacea at one time in America. So, so another thing that I noticed was that in his book, Sean's book, he tries to discredit Dr. Herman, uh, Mark L. Herman, who was the uh, county coroner, by saying he was an assistant to the coroner uh, James Y. Clark. He tries to discredit him in his book, The Murder of Sonny Liston, uh, by saying that he was an assistant and he did the autopsy report. That shows me that the fact that Sean ASSAEL says it in his book tells me that he's never seen the autopsy report. Because if he saw the autopsy report, he would know that John uh, he would know that James Y. Clark, MD, was the head coroner, but uh, Mark L. Herman was also the MD, but he was the assistant because James Y. Clark was had been there for years, right? So he did the postmortem. James A. Clark did the postmortem, not Dr. Herman. He didn't do the postmortem. He had different responsibilities, but they were both MDs. So Sean tries to discredit uh, uh, Dr. Herman by saying that he was his assistant. Yeah, he assisted, but he was still an MD. Uh, and a lot of the paperwork was handled by Herman because the postmortem was done by uh, Dr. Dr. Clark. So I think that Sean ASSAEL did that so he could strengthen his argument about the murder and the heroin possibility of heroin in his blood and all these other narcotics that he said that he's saying that were maybe a cause of Sonny's death. Uh, so so the record shows that Dr. Herman was assisting. He was an assistant. Had other responsibilities. Dr. Clark did the postmortem, and then after he did the postmortem, exam on Sonny, he retired. He was much older than Dr. Herman. So, and then Dr. Herman took over. So, so let's get to this death certificate, um, so we can set the record straight. Okay, let's show and tell. You guys can always go back, right? Just let you know that this is the real, actual. There's a state seal. Okay, so let's go through it. Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Health, Vital Statistics. State of Nevada, Department of Health, Welfare and Rehabilitation. Division of Health, Section of Vital Statistics. Certificate of Death. Deceased, Charles Liston, male. Found January 5th, 1971. Negro, 38. Date of birth, May 8th, 1932. County of death, Clark. Now, everybody seems to know Sonny's date of birth, except those people making movies, writing books, and those in charge of news agencies that do editorial copy. So for God, since 1971, and even before, even while Sonny was still alive, somehow everyone, but everyone outside of Health and Human Services, outside of government agencies, have an amnesia or something. They can't remember anything about. I mean, they just they just can't understand how Sonny could be born on May 8th, 1932. Everybody seems just dumbfounded by that. In any case, here we go. City and town, Las Vegas. Blah blah blah. Birth, Arkansas. Married, Geraldine Chambers, who became Geraldine Liston. Boxer, professional athletics as a profession. Residence, Nevada. County Clark, Las Vegas City. 2058 Ottawa Drive. Father, Toby Liston. Mother, Helen Baskin. Informant name, C.J. Murphy, attorney. 245 North Center Street, Casper, Wyoming, 82601. Before I forget, there's this whole debate about Sonny not liking needles. Well, and that's what Geraldine said. Sonny doesn't like needles. He didn't like needles. Who does? Raise your hand if you love to go into a hospital and get blood work. You go, I'm ready. Give me a shot. I love this. I love this shit. No, you don't. So, so we have to, let's be logical here. Sonny was a boxer. Boxers get cut when they fight. They bleed. So do you think Sonny had to get blood work before a fight? Of course he did. Why? Because they don't want fighters getting hepatitis. Right? So of course Sonny had to have blood work done. He may not have liked needles, but he still had to go and get a pre-fight examination before the fight. Or when he went abroad, when he went to Europe or around the world to fight, he had to get shots. Come on now. Really? And before he died, Sonny got into a car accident. And he went to the hospital complaining of chest pains. So don't you think they did blood work those 3 days that he was in the hospital to check and see why his chest was hurting? Come on now. So this is what Sonny died of. He died of either two ailments. Okay. He died of either A, pulmonary congestion and edema, or B, probable myocardial anoxia due to coronary insufficiency. Exact cause undetermined by autopsy. That doesn't mean they don't know what happened. That means it's either A or B. They don't know what caused it, but it was either A or B. There's nothing here about heroin. There's nothing here. We're going to get into the toxicology because Showtime and SHAUN ASSAEL says that Sonny had had heroin in his blood. Doesn't that sound exciting? Doesn't that see controversy sells? Doesn't that sound wow? He had heroin in blood. Oh my God, he was a drug addict. That's more exciting than saying no, he didn't. Um, so other significant conditions. Uh, myocardial fibrosis and pulmonary emphysema. Sonny was fighting with all of this going on in his body. What a brave and amazing human being he was. We're not saying he was perfect, but god damn. Um, Autopsy, yes. Uh, if yes, were the findings considered in determining the cause of death? Yes. Let me read that again. If yes, were findings considered in determining cause of death? Yes. So they've determined that. They've determined that this is the cause, not drugs, not murder, not a hot dose. Um, so let's see. Certification, medical examiner or coroner on the basis of the examination of the body and or the investigator. In my opinion, death occurs on the date and due to the causes stated. Before 11:30 p.m., January 5th, 1971, 11:30 p.m., Mark L. Herman, MD coroner. Out. Yeah, that's it. That's Mark Herman's signature. Uh, Burial, Paradise Gardens, Las Vegas, Nevada, January 9th, 1971. Palm Mortuary, 1325 North Main, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89101. Blah, blah, blah. So the date signed was, so Mark Herman signed this on 1/21/71. So he was certified because he's an MD to look at Dr. Clark's postmortem examination and verify the finding and say yes, this is it. I'm going to sign this. Okay, because remember the post examination did not happen on the 6th, January 6th. Dr. Clark did it on January 6th. So what they told me at the coroner's office was that Dr. Clark had retired